Anderson. I'm the Marketing and Operations Director at Generations Law Group, and I am also the co-founder and after-loss advisor for Full Circle Legacy. I have Tiffany Kudravetz with me today, and she is from Generations Law Group. I'll have Tiffany introduce herself in a minute, but what we're going to be talking about today is what to do after a death in the family. There are lots of things that you need to know what to do, and sometimes it can get confusing. So we're going to break it down for you today. So Tiffany, thanks for joining me.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. Again, my name is Tiffany Kudravetz, and I'm an attorney at Generations Law Group. I am the director of our conservatorship, guardianship, and probate department, and I'm looking forward to talking with you today, along with Carol, so we can give you a roadmap that will hopefully help you when you are working through the steps after a loved one passes away.
Great. So let's get started.
Before we get started, I have our standard legal disclaimer. Just a reminder that this is not legal advice. This is an overview, and it's meant to give you an idea of what you should be thinking about and what you should be doing. But please know that every circumstance is different for every person, every family, every probate that we do. So do not take this as specific legal advice. If you need that, please consult your attorney, whether it's one of us here at Generations Law Group or someone else out there. But we're happy to give you this overview to give you a starting point.
Okay, so let's start off with some key points to remember. As we were saying, losing a loved one is a really overwhelming time. You might start thinking about all the things that you need to do and just don't know where to start. So the biggest keys that we want you to remember from today is to take things one step at a time. And if you're not sure what those steps are, contact a professional. Tiffany is the probate expert. I also do the after loss advising, and I can help you figure out where to start. So there are professionals that are available to help you when you need them. Definitely allow yourself time to grieve. And that is a big one. And even, there is no shoulds in grief. You shouldn't put that should on yourself. You need to be able to give yourself the time and the grace to say, I just need to focus on my grief for a minute, and then I'll take care of something afterwards. And if that's overwhelming, again, there's professionals to help you. And you don't have to do everything alone. We're here for you. Lean on some friends, lean on family. They're there for you. A lot of times you may think they're not, or you don't want to be a burden to them and ask for anything, but they are very willing to help. In fact, they would probably be very grateful that you asked them.
So before we dive into the details, I wanted to just emphasize something that Carol said, is that not everything should or has to be done immediately. It's very important to take the time that you need and to grieve. There are some things that we think have to be done sooner rather than later, and so I'll explain those soon. There are some short-term tasks, like between the first week or so up to a month, and then there's ongoing tasks that you will take care of. But we'll try to explain them in separate parts so you know I do need to prioritize this, but these things can wait. So in terms of immediate priority actions, a lot of these are things that you would think about right from the start. Was your loved one an organ donor? If so, there might already be something in the works that had been discussed with their doctor or with an organ donation type company where you just need to sign some papers and you can keep that moving. But it's really important that organ donation, if that's in the plan, that it be considered with the doctors and medical staff immediately. Next, it's really important to think about dependents. And a lot of people think of dependents as minor children, for example. And what am I going to do with the children? But it might also be an adult child that the person was taking care of, or maybe someone who was an adult child, so in their 40s, 50s, 60s, was taking care of their aging parent, and that's the person who died. So dependents could be a child or it could be an adult, just depending on the circumstance. But if someone was receiving care, especially if it was someone who needed 24/7 care, you want to make sure that person has someone taking care of them, giving them medication, getting them to school or to the doctor. You don't want to forget about your, like, the dependence of the person who passed away. And then also, you want to take care of pets. You certainly don't want to leave a pet home alone without food or water or being let out, or maybe the pet needs medication. So you just want to make sure that there's somebody who jumps in right away and takes care of pets as well. And then it's important to secure possessions. And specifically from the start, there could be break ins, but it also could just be that people who maybe don't even have any ill will or intention are taking things out of the house. But before we get into the next steps of what property was there and who is supposed to receive the property, we don't want people moving things around.
All right, for some short-term tasks that you need to do pretty much almost right away after your loved ones passed away, making funeral arrangements. If that's one of their wishes that they wanted, sometimes folks leave prepaid funeral arrangements already in place. Sometimes they just want a memorial service, so you're going to need to take care of those. Ordering death certificates. You can order them through the funeral home, and we often suggest you order from around 10 or 12 of them because a lot of the things that you're going to need to do in the coming months may require an original death certificate. So when you're getting them at the beginning, it's always good to get almost a dozen of them. Notifying friends and family and an employer. And this can be overwhelming. There's a lot of people that need to be notified usually, and you can ask one of those friends that keeps saying, what can I do? What can I do? How can I help? That's a great way to ask a friend or a family member to be helpful. It's to contact a group of friends that they may have played basketball with or that they went to school with. Security precautions. When the funeral is happening, a lot of times that's unfortunately when some people try to break into a home when they know that someone has passed away. So it's always a good idea to have someone or even hire a private security person to be in the house so that the house stays secure. And then identify recurring services. So trying to figure out, was there always a trash pickup weekly? Was there a cleaning person that came in regularly? You want to try to identify those things. And if they're not needed, you can either reduce them or cancel them. Tiffany, do you have anything to add?
No, you got it all.
Okay.
So for additional short-term tasks around 2 to 3 weeks after your loved one has passed away, it's important to start locating original legal documents and other documents. And I want to particularly emphasize that with legal documents like a last will and testament, or if there's a revocable or irrevocable living trust, an asset protection trust, any sort of legal document, you want to find the original signed document that might be in their files with their important papers, or it might be at an attorney's office, but it's very important to make sure you're looking at originals because those are the documents that will guide you. Before I pass this on to Carol, I did want to emphasize something that she can add to. But when you're doing this, you want to make sure you're the right person for the job. So when you find those legal documents, the will name a personal representative, formerly known as an executor, and that's the person that would oversee the estate and the administration and probate if needed. If there's a trust, the document would name a successor trustee, and that's the person who would administer the trust. Perhaps there are no legal documents in place, in which case there's a statutory framework set by the state that says this is the hierarchy of who has priority to serve as personal representative and take care of these tasks. So as you're moving through this and you locate these documents, you'll have a clear sense of what is my exact role, What do I have legal authority to do? And you might find that you're one of those helpers that Carol mentioned. You're someone who can make calls and can be delegated to, or you might find you're the person who's doing all of it. But having those original legal documents gives you absolute clarity on who should be in charge and exactly what they need to do.
Right. Definitely important. Um, so identifying regular bills and other debts. It becomes a bit of a treasure hunt when someone passes away, looking for all of the different paperwork, the legal documents, other important documents, bills, debts. What did they owe? What kind of credit cards did they have? Did they owe any mortgage? Did they have any other loans, personal loans? Um, all that, it becomes, I like to refer to it as a little bit of a treasure hunt. Notifying organizations and other entities. You're going to need to notify Social Security. Usually the funeral home does that, but it's always a good idea to double check and make sure that that was actually done. Um, Notifying the credit card companies and the credit bureaus of the person passing away so that credit fraud doesn't happen. So there's a lot of different organizations to be notified. And this is actually a good point for me to chime in a little bit about Full Circle Legacy and how we help. We do help in the after part of once someone has passed away with all of these details. But if you're the person who's stressing and searching, you might want to say, oh, I don't want to leave this for my loved ones. And we can actually help you get all of this organized, figure out what you may need if you're missing some legal documents that you should have, like a power of attorney or even a will or a trust. We can, go through it and see what you might need, what things you do have, and just kind of build it from there so that we'll put all the pieces of the puzzle together. So when the time comes and your loved ones need to find, locate these original legal documents and other important documents, you have them all in one place. And so Full Circle Legacy can absolutely help you with doing that.
So within the first month, it's helpful to start having consultations with professionals who can help you. And this is something that Carol had alluded to, that Full Circle Legacy can certainly be involved in terms of creating a schedule of meetings, helping gather the information needed, the follow-up steps. But you'll definitely want to meet with an estate planning attorney, and that's the person who can look at those legal documents and clarify this is who is serving, this is something you should look out for. This is ultimately the distribution that's going to happen. Here's what you need to do to get there. Also, this would have been done before, but if there were, for example, if there were minors and guardianship needed to be taken care of, you would have likely already met with an estate planning attorney who could help file that petition. An accountant and a financial advisor can help in terms of tax implications, estate taxes, and all of the financial implications of someone passing away and assets um, basically being consolidated, transferred, distributed, whatever the plan is. So within that first month or so is when you would start with that treasure hunt that Carol mentioned, where you're identifying the assets in the paperwork. But there are several types of assets that are really important. So there's the financial assets that everyone thinks of, like bank accounts, stocks, bonds, pensions, retirement accounts, annuities. There's also real property, and that could be their primary residence. It could be a vacation home. It could be a timeshare that they still have. Also, personal property. Personal property is sort of the stuff, like what's in your house, furniture, artwork, jewelry. Does anything need to be appraised? Are there specific things in the will or trust about any of this property? But you basically have to identify what's there to know what you're working with. And then finally, digital assets. And that's not just like your social media accounts or online banking, but perhaps you have like an online photo storage or like a DocuSafe sort of program where you have a lot of things stored, like who should have access to that, or is there anything already set up so that when you pass away, it gets deleted, or maybe it's automatically transferred to someone else. But basically, part of the treasure hunt and all of the looking around that you're doing is to identify pretty much every single thing the decedent had, so you can figure out what you need to do with all of it.
Right. And I do want to add, as far as full circle is concerned, meeting with the estate planning attorney, accountant, financial advisor, we can attend those meetings with you. We can also be the contact. So you could kind of think of us as like the general contractor, that we set up these appointments for you. And so you only have to speak to one person, and that would be someone like me. And then I would speak to the attorney for you, if that's something that you feel that you need to have.
So in terms of ongoing responsibilities, this is basically what does the personal representative, if there's a will, the trustee, if there's a trust, there might be a personal representative and a trustee, but basically what is the person in charge doing over time? Depending on if there's a will or a trust, it varies. But in all cases, that person would want to create an inventory of the decedent's assets. And that's basically a list of these are the financial accounts and how much they had. This is the personal property, especially anything of value like a collection, um, artwork, jewelry, like the things that are of high value. But you basically want to have an inventory of that because you're going to want to keep an account of everything that you do. So when you're maybe reimbursing yourself or you're prepaying the attorney before you have access to funds or whatever you need to do, the inventory is your starting point of this is what the decedent has. And then you just keep records, basically an account of like I spent this money on this, I reimbursed myself for this, I distributed this, I donated this like I was supposed to. So there's a lot of just sort of documenting all of your steps. There may be tax filings. Well, there you always have to file the decedent's last individual tax return. But there might also be an estate tax return, whether for the state or for the federal government, just depending on the assets. And then ultimately, the goal is to transfer and distribute all the assets as it said to do in the will or the trust. So your goal in terms of figuring out what everything is also to get it to the right place. And typically there's the terms in the will or the trust that control, and if not, there's a statutory framework that said like, um, was there a surviving spouse or children? There's a whole framework that in case there wasn't a will that you would use to know, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do.
Okay, and again, back to the key takeaways, taking it one day at a time, one step at a time. This is not something that has to be done within a week. It's going to take time. Protecting the assets of your loved one, and making sure you document everything, like Tiffany was saying, anything you spend, or do, write it down. Use professionals, such as Tiffany, such as myself, that we can help you through the probate process and through all of the administrative process that comes along with it. And definitely allow yourself some time for grief. Again, don't put the shoulds on yourself. It's been, a month. I shouldn't be feeling this way at this point, or it's been a year. I really shouldn't, be feeling so sad about this still. Allow yourself that time. If you feel you need some professional help, there's many different counselors out there that work with grieving people, and they maybe reach out for them for some professional help.
And I'd like to add two things. One is that there's no perfect way to go through this process, both in terms of grieving, in terms of organizing everything, in terms of moving forward. You just have to do the best with the information and the resources you have. So, as long as you're acting in good faith and getting help when needed, just know that it might not be a smooth process. Filings might get rejected. A bank might say this isn't the right form. Just know that, it's never a perfect scenario. It's never 100% smooth. So just do your best. And then also, we experience this a lot, like even as attorneys who do probate routinely as part of work, mistakes can be corrected. So again, if you're acting in good faith and you file something and it's rejected because you didn't check the right box or you were missing some information, just know that it happens to all of us. We can always fix mistakes. So don't be too hard on yourself when you're going through this process. If you have someone you can rely on, a friend, a professional, a sounding board, basically, you'll hear it from them too. It's not going to be necessarily an easy experience, but with the help and taking your time and just sort of having just a good perspective and knowing, okay, I might make mistakes. There might be bumps in the road, but ultimately I'm doing a really good thing for someone I cared about. You'll make it through. Just reach out to us if you need any assistance on the way.
Yes.
So before we let you go, I did want to show you a couple of resources online that you can use to get started. One, with respect to Generations Law Group on our website, there's a resources tab. We have articles, which are really helpful in terms of just short topics. It's everything about estate planning, elder law. There are also probate topics. We have ebooks, which are particularly helpful. One of them is specifically what to do after death in the family, and that one is a really good companion to this webinar. You can download it from our website. And then another one just in terms of planning, and it helps you in terms of conversations with loved ones. So you can get a sense of their wishes and their assets and what they want to happen. I highly recommend the book Life Conversations with Your Important People. It's a really good book because it's a guide in terms of you can fill it out like a workbook or you can just use it for talking points, but it goes through some topics in more depth than you might think is needed because we all take for granted the things that we know and think, oh, they would already know that about us or they'd know what to do. But that workbook really gets the conversation going. We also have a YouTube channel, and if you just click on Generations Law Group, there's all kinds of different videos on topics and old webinars. But it's a really great resource, and different attorneys do different presentations, so sometimes it's helpful to hear things different ways. But I highly recommend our YouTube channel. And then last but not least is the website that Carol put together for Full Circle Legacy. And on this website, it has everything to do about the services provided, things you could do proactively now, and then in terms of after loss professional guidance. And you actually have a button here for schedule a call where you can go right to Carol's calendar and you can set up the free introductory call with her. So you can actually schedule that or you can contact her directly to get that conversation going.
And speaking of reaching out to us, here are our contact information for Tiffany and for myself. If you want to make an introductory phone call appointment with me to talk about getting your estate organized, or if you've lost a loved one recently and you are the person who needs to be making all the decisions, you're named the personal representative or the trustee in their documents, you can go to www.fullcirclelegacy.com and that you can schedule an appointment with me right on the website. Thank you very much, Tiffany. Thank you everybody for watching, and you can contact us if you need us, and have a great day.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.